Hello and welcome, my name is Viktor and you're watching Sabine, Final Evolution, a new video from the Nordic Takedown.
Final Evolution, and I honestly don't think it's ever going to be better for us.
That was Chrono, one of the original architects behind Sabine ECL, one of the most persistent versions of the Sabine deck. Sabine ECL has been one of my favourite decks all the way since set 1. I've been coming back to that deck off and on throughout the game's history. I made a video about half a year ago about Sabine and her situation in the meta going into the second rotation block. That video released right after set 4. Now, for set 6, with a full card pool, what options do we have for Sabine? What is her place in the meta, and is she going to go out with a bang or with a whimper? Once again, I've got some of the very best Sabine players in the world for you, talking about what their history with the deck has been and what they see in the future for this, the final evolution of Sabine. Before we get into all that though, I'll just take a brief moment to thank you all for watching our YouTube channel. As of the making of this video, we are close to 1,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to us if you would subscribe and get us over that hurdle. But the beating heart of what we're doing is our weekly podcast, dropping new episodes every Thursday on any platform that you use for podcasts. Now, let's get to it. The person to really put Sabine on the map back in set 1, or maybe even earlier, was Justin Desai, or KTOD Justin, one of the founding members of the KTOD team. He championed Sabine in the KTOD forums together with Chrono and a whole lot of other people. They solidified the core of the deck as we know it today.
Yeah, I've really been playing Sabine since set 1. CJ was one of the original members of KTOD with Mike, and they were actually playing it like on various like online apps before the full set 1 was even spoiled. So like when spoiler season was out, they're like, oh, this card's going to be good for Sabine, and this, oh, Battlefield Marine's amazing for Sabine. So really before I was even playing that heavily. And then when set 1 dropped, I basically, my first deck I got was Sabine. That was the deck that, like, when you're first trying to open boxes and boosters and stuff, and kind of like learn the game. I played ECL Sabine, and then my very first tournament was they didn't have OP, FFG didn't have, we were running sectors or regionals or PQs or even store showdowns at that point. But there was a case tournament, pretty close to me, maybe about 45-minute drive, and I went there and I actually won the tournament. I went 5-0. And I won a case of set 1, and I was like, this is awesome. Because back then also set 1 was hard to find. So it was like, maybe $1,000 that the case was selling for. So, and then I took it to Gen Con, which was sort of like that preview of organized play. It was a 128 person event, and I top 16 that to win the finalizer match. So that was my entry point. And then I kind of, along with CJ in the KTOD Discord, kind of became the two, I'd say the two most active posters in the Discord, Sabine Green thread, which has thousands and thousands of posts in it. And we've kind of never stopped really posting there, tweaking it. And obviously the game is now a year and a half old, so I played other decks and recently top 8'd with Han. But Sabine was definitely the first deck that I made a name for myself with. I will say that Sabine Data Vault has also been a deck that I've thoroughly enjoyed, and actually had my PQ win was after watching your guys' video and really learning it. And I remember when I first saw the list from Top 8 that Jonas played, I played it in testing and lost like almost all my games. And then I watched your guys' video, and I think I won like 15 games in a row because I understood that like two drops on turn 3, 15 power, like that's the key. And then obviously I won the PQ and I went and defeated it that one. So that's a deck that I am holding. I really like that deck. Near and dear to my heart. I actually think that Sabine is going to be as well positioned as possibly as much as it has been since set 2, or maybe like even the set 4 at the very least. I think Sabine is getting a lot of new tools.
Right you are, Justin. I am excited too, but let's hold off on that and get back to it in a little bit. I'm a teacher. The history lesson isn't done just yet. Like I said, together with Justin, Chrono has been at it for a while.
I've been playing Sabine pretty much since the game, before it came out, really. We had been testing cards that had been spoiled, and ultimately played a lot of the yellow Sabine, right? That's what everyone thought was the best Sabine for a long time. And then as soon as Rebel Assault got spoiled, we switched over to the green Sabine. At that time, everyone thought that Leia was one of the best aggro decks, and we had discovered that through ECL and Steadfast Battalion and Rebel Assault and all these cool little quirks that Sabine could do, that it was definitely much more powerful. And so I've been playing it ever since that. As far as set one, there wasn't a lot of events back then, right? But me and my teammate Justin got first and second at win a case tournament, which was a big deal because there was no product. And so the case ended up being worth a lot of money. So that was really cool. And both of us were on that green Sabine list. And then I played it through multiple sets. I got second at a PQ in set two, losing to my now teammate Alex while he was on Han 1. I took it to another top 4 finish at a PQ here in New Hampshire. And then at the Minnesota regional qualifier, got top 8. So we played a long time, had a lot of really good tournament finishes with it. There has been quite a few downs, right? What's fun with Sabine is it has a very simple strategy, right? The idea is you're an aggro deck, you're pretty fast, you have some tempo plays, but the meta can definitely shift to a point where it is much more challenging for you. So a lot of the lows were when people started figuring out the right lines, right, and the right builds for certain decks to counter Sabine a little bit. So I think back to Han 1, right? Cunning was a big card that took a lot of figuring out on the Sabine side how to even make that matchup playable. I think the same thing with when Vader Pilot came out, right? It was very challenging. How do we race this deck? How do we combat it? And so a lot of those times, Sabine wasn't unplayable, but it was really challenging. But you could find lines, right, to get around that. But then last set, I think it was honestly the worst set for Sabine because we had Han 2 Blue come out, which people think, oh, it's turret. That's the hardest part. Really, the hardest part is they're faster than you. Ogdo Bogdo on turn 1 into Itinerant Warrior is 9 damage, and we can't really interact very well with either of those cards. So they just win that race basically for free. And then, of course, they throw a turret down later just to seal the deal. But when you get decks like that and a lot of the villain tempo decks that were coming out, it was really challenging. So I think the lows were definitely last set for sure.
Throughout the first block of sets, Sabine maintained a high profile, even in the midst of really broken leaders like Boba and Han 1. Set 3 didn't give her a lot of new cards, and yet she prevailed. But going into set 4, well, she was getting a whole lot of new great cards, but then there was Django. So, well, she didn't really stand a chance. But then Django got banned. Everything was up in the air. What was the meta going to look like? In the first major tournament after the Django ban, Will showed us that Sabine was here to stay.
Winning that tournament, having the day I had, that was the biggest highlight has to be the Richmond sector. That was very early in our team's conception. There was 5 of us on the team, 4 of us made it down there, and they weren't guys that I had necessarily traveled to a bunch of tournaments with. We'd gone to things like PQs or something together, 1-day tournaments together, but I hadn't spent entire weekends with them. So it was a really cool bonding experience from the team perspective, and then coupled that with winning every game I played. Just about it was a crazy run. The cards all came up my way. Felt like I played real well. I feel like it was a really good meta choice. It was into a fairly open meta where aggro tends to do well. It was right after the Django bans and stuff, so everybody wasn't exactly sure what to do. And when people hesitate even a little bit, you get in there with aggro, you get in there with the Sabine deck. You're consistent, you're doing what you're doing. And I definitely got lucky. I mean, I don't think anybody can win a sector without getting somewhat lucky. I had some bad matchups, and I ran into those bad matchups, and then I just ended up beating great players on a bad matchup, and it was like, well, sometimes it's just in the cards. But that was definitely one of the best weekends I've had playing cards, period, let alone with Sabine. But a lot of that had to do with spending the time with the team for the first time too, and growing there. So that was fun. I'm an aggro player at heart, and when this game came out, finding the aggro deck, finding the way to play that style of game, play my style of game, was something that was important to me. So early in set 1, we were on Sabine, Rebel package. The deck's obviously changed dramatically since, but I mean, since set one, Sabine has really been where I've wanted to play the game. It's like this allows me to control the pace of the game, control the way this game is going to end, and put myself in the best position for wins. I've tested other bases and colors. I've never registered Sabine anything besides ECL into a tournament. I've never felt that anything else offered the same thing that ECL offers. Ambush is a very powerful mechanic, especially when you get to control the combat and you can send your bigger guy into their smaller guy, or you can, just flat out win the game with something like Poe or Wrecker. Um, those obviously didn't come till later, but even early on, we had like Steadfast Battalion was a card that we were ECLing in, and it really allows you to swing the game in your favor. I've never unsleeved the deck. It's always been ready to go, and even when I've brought other things to a tournament, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, we could just switch to Sabine right now. The tournament hasn't started yet.
Used to be that people thought that Americans are playing aggro and Europeans are playing control. That is obviously far from the complete picture, but early on Sabine did make more of a splash on the other side of the Atlantic. Going into Set 5 and Galactics and beyond, common wisdom on both sides of the Atlantic was that Sabine might just not be a really good meta call. Yet, a lot of people brought her to a lot of different tournaments. The only regional of Set 5 was here in Europe, Bilbao, Spain. Camino from the French Night Owl team brought his favourite deck Sabine, and he got her almost all the way into top 8, ending up in 9th.
In Bilbao, that was, I think, one of my best performance. I did a lot of good play, and I was very, very, very lucky about the pairing. I played three Palpatine yellow and one Iden Data Vault. I didn't play any Cat Bane or one green. I have won 8 game in the day 1. So it was perfect for the day 2. In all the tournament I have done, I never been stream. I love the idea of being stream, looking what I can do with my deck and show to my friend. And I have been streaming 2 times today, so that was so cool for me. I do good performance. I was lucky on the pairing. I have been streaming. It was one of my favorite tournament of all time. Sabine is the deck I always played for the tournament. I never thinking about changing of that. It is the deck who I have the most fun. I like the flexibility of the deck to don't go only in the base, the build around the deck with the rebel unite, and you have some guys to go to the base when you have no unite with 4 cores. So I don't think changing about her. Before playing Sabine, I started with Leia because I was looking for something that was both fun and strong in aggro deck. However, when I wanted to get into competitive play, I had to play the best aggressive leader, so I switched to Sabine. And one of the reasons I chose her is that in the TCG experiments, I have played particularly Magic, and I always preferred to play red and green, which are Sabine's color, and aggressive color. So this leader was perfect for me. Another reason was that playing an aggro deck is generally less expensive, and Poe was the first legendary card I managed to get because I have begin Star Wars at the set 2. And finally, as I was a beginner, I figured that by playing aggro, I'd have a better chance of cheating my way to victory against good player. And the strategy worked because in my very first tournament, which was in Saint-Maur-de-Touraine, I managed to finish in the top 42 of 200 players as far as I can remember. Then I just played Sabine in every tournament. Regardless of the meta, it's the deck I feel most comfortable with, and even if the deck can struggle against the meta, which has never really been the case, it's always been strong. I'd rather drive a car that's less explosive but that I've mastered perfectly than a faster car that I'd make driving mistake with and loss. I have testing all the colors, but I always go back to ECL with very, for my opinion, it's just best for the flexibility of the ambush and the combo with Poe and Breaker. Sometimes there was time when I found Sabine was finished, that it was time to move on, especially during the set 5 with my performance at World. I thinking about go back to Sabine Yellow, but finally it was difficult for the deck to perform well, and with all the upgrades to the stats of turn 1, Taciturn, card, and leaders had made things too difficult for Sabine. I thinking yellow bars would be better, but in reality, I saw people winning PQs with Sabine ACL, even when first row was still around. So I figured the problem wasn't with the leader or the color of the base, but with how I was building around and playing in it. So I looked for a way to better manage both good and bad matchups. I often tell my gaming partners that Sabine is like a sort of chocolate cake recipe. It's like everyone know how to the taste of the chocolate cake, but there is always tiny detail that make the taste different. When I have begun with this deck, initially the deck was very aggressive. Obviously, it's it's a aggro deck, so we need to go to the base. But I think the deck have been more flexible. It's not only push damage to the base, and it's quickly need to be focused on what do I need to trade, what do I need to don't, when do I need to trade, when do I don't need to trade, and I need to go back fast. Even if we are in late game with 10 resources, it's not over yet for Sabine with all the cards who have been pulling, like Cassian in the set 2, or for a cause who can very be helpful for do 4 damage when you don't have any unite. You have Chewbacca who help you to don't be destroyed by any ability card, who can really help you when the opponent want to do a super laser blast or something like that. Some people have found Sabine frustrating when facing air, but it's completely understandable, because sometimes there's just nothing you can do against her. But I think Sabine I'll always be a deck who can punish control deck like Emperor Palpatine, and if she was not here, it will be very difficult for the other deck to bring it up, because Palpatine will be unmanageable. There is some cards who can help you to beat control deck and manage against mid-range deck. Yoda Lightsaber was a good change of how you need to play Sabine in the turn 3, because before you want to deploy your leader, do a dark saber, push the base, and now I think it's a bad idea to do that, because you can be punished very easily. So with the Yoda lightsaber, you can put a unite, deploy your leader, put the saber on one of your units or your leader, and go to the base. My side, I've always changed about the meta. I do not play confiscate in main when I was in set 2 and set 3, but with the set 4 and a lot of pilots, I needed to respect that because the pilot could be very dangerous for Sabine. So I switch confiscate and timely. Timely was in my side, and now confiscate what is my main. And for the set 5, some unite like Shirut could be very difficult for me. When you play against like Antu Blue, a combo will be very extremely difficult for Sabine. It's like you play Grogu, and after that you play another unit, and after that you play a Shirut. And with that, you don't have anything to pass Shirut, and it's over. If you don't have spatial unit, it's over. But with the take captive, you can capture Shirut on your Sabine, and it will be helpful for you to go to the base. And normally, the opponent don't have anything to get back Shirut unless one or two action, and this action are good for us because we can push his base and try to win. Just before Bilbao, I was thinking about a card who can help me when I was against spatial deck. And one like Vader, like Poe can be very difficult for me because I can't do anything about that if I don't have Sabine Masterpiece ECL. And I'm thinking about rule with respect. And Iron Deal was agree with me, so I do the change. I didn't need the cards during my tournament. It was comfortable to have it, and I could play it. And if I had done it, that could be very helpful for me.
Watching SWU content, and other things too, you might get the impression that the US and Europe are the only places that matter. My friend Clint has been playing Sabine all along, and he lives down under in Australia, and apparently they play SWU there as well.
I started with Sabine Tarkentown, but it just quite wasn't it. And if you remember before Unlimited was released, everyone was hot on Sabine Yellow. Sabine Yellow was the aggro deck coming out of the gate, hot out of the gate for Unlimited. And that was before everyone realized how broken Energy Conversion Lab was. And once I switched to Energy Conversion Lab and could do kind of cool stuff with the Steadfast Battalion or even Zeb. Zeb was like a good ECL target, or at that stage, I think we were just ECLing K2SO as well over smaller units for the overwhelm and to clear the board. I never really looked back after that. I tried other decks, and nothing quite gives you the satisfaction of ECLing something to clear a unit and do overwhelm damage and then just run away with the game after that. ECL is like a very interesting card because it's not actually an aggressive card. It's a control card. So you've got this control card in an aggressive deck, which all you need is that like one piece of interaction just to flip the board state, basically, and run away with the game. Which is why I kind of stuck with ECL, is because it wasn't as easy. I know a lot of people just say, oh, yeah, you just ECL Poe or you ECL Wrecker. It's not as easy as that. There's a lot of like small decision points that you have to make to get to that point. If you ECL something one turn too early, you might have just lost the game on the spot there, and it's very hard to pull it back. Sabine ECLs historically is very good at staying in games. Like, you're not like a Kylo Tarkentown where if you remove Kylo or you control the board just enough, you're out by resource 5. Sabine can go late if she has to. And ECL is something that definitely helps with that. But there are a lot of small decision points, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate that about Sabine. You know, there's the running joke that's just like, oh, turn card sideways, hit base. It's not that. And for the most part, like my teammates, they say that all the time. I know they're joking about it because Sabine is a lot more nuanced than people give it credit for. And people who play Sabine for the first time in a tournament will not do well with it. Like, they will burn out and they go, "Oh, I don't understand why people do so well with this deck." It's because you don't know how to play it. Like, it's not just turn card sideways, hit base. I did keep at it until recently. Set 5. So set 4, I won a PQ with Sabine. I think, like with anything with this game, and I still don't know how I feel about it, is sometimes, we say it on our podcast all the time, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And to win tournaments or like planetary qualifiers or larger events, there is an element of luck that comes along with this game. I think you need to be a little bit more lucky in some instances. You can be gas with a deck, but if you just hit 2 bad matchups in a day, due to variance, you're not going to get there. I think what has happened, and my best assumption of it, like, so for set 5, I was started on Sabine and ended up on Han 1 green. I was very down on Sabine in set 5, and the reason I was down on Sabine is I think Sabine is still a very powerful deck, but I think the rest of the meta has finally caught up to Sabine. It's not that Sabine's gotten worse. I think the rest of the meta just caught up to her and her power level. Etching out wins was a lot more difficult. There were a lot more matchups that I don't want to say were unwinnable, but you had to be a little bit lucky to win those games. Like Han 2 Force Blue was one of those matchups. Han 1 Green, one of those matchups. So you did have to be a little bit more lucky towards the tail end of set 5. Well, all throughout set 5, really. Sabine did win planetary qualifiers. Even at Galactic Championships, there were a lot of Sabines in day 3. Not a lot of Sabines, maybe like 5 or 6. But still more than I think people thought there were going to be. She's just a deck that keeps sticking around. Sometimes with Sabine as well, we've talked about this a bit, is that you need to let the meta evolve around Sabine a little bit more than Sabine evolving around the meta. And at some points, like, you'll go through a cycle where Sabine will be bad week 1, bad week 2, bad week 3. The meta shifts and she's just gassed for that week 4. And then we start that cycle all over again. So, the planetary qualifier that I won in set 4, I got very lucky. I lost my round 1 matchup and had against a Boba 4 yellow deck that just completely gassed me out. And then I had to submarine my way up, and I had a few fortunate matchups. I had a couple of matchups that were 50-50 that I managed to, etch out wins there. And then I fell on the right side of the top 8 bracket where I had good matchups for me, whereas my opponent in the final got all my bad matchups that were good for him. But I just happened to have a better matchup into him in the finals. So, there, as I said, there is an element of luck. There is skill with the deck, familiarity with the deck as well. And I think Sabine's just one of those decks that's always going to be around until she rotates.
Yes, let's finally get into the present and maybe even the future. Where do we see Sabine going into set 6? What is final evolution going to look like now with a full set of cards and amazing opportunities, but also, of course, some really, really tough hurdles?
This is the most excited for a set I've been in quite some time. I feel like this is the most help Sabine has gotten in quite some time. There's a lot of cards with the word rebel on them. Specifically, Karis Nemec.
I think one of the best cards in the set is the Nemec, Karis Nemec card.
A lot of interesting units came out in this set that might interest Sabine. I'm thinking, for example, of the Karis Nemec.
The cards that are gas are really, really good for Sabine. So you've got like Nemec. Nemec is gas. A card that can replace itself that comes in ready as well. That's just an auto include for Sabine.
The card's so good for Sabine. It's a rebel. It stops power of the dark side. It's attacks for 3. It's hidden. It's checks so many boxes. And I feel like Sabine's wanted that extra 2-drop for a while. It has a lot of options, but this is like a really, really good one for it. I think Sabine is getting a lot of new tools.
Sabine, I think one of its biggest strengths is the red-green hero card pool is so diverse in how it can attack the meta that you can, although the core of the deck has been very similar since set 1, a lot of those cards are very powerful, especially the Rebel Synergy. We have seen a lot of cards that have allowed us to completely change how we play the game. And so if you think about early on Sabine, we really didn't play upgrades, right? We weren't an upgrade focused deck. We were very much just play our units out. We played on curve very much, right? We did a 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop down to Steadfast Battalion ECL, and that pretty much would end the game most of the time. As it evolved, we got new ECL targets, right? We got Poe and we got Wrecker, but then we also got Darksaber, right? Which allowed us to do something different on flip turn. Card looks kind of bad on paper, but it plays really well, especially because it just enables Sabine to become a very high health unit that with some hidden synergies to pump some of the rest of the cards in your deck to really outrace. And so we've seen a lot of different ways that the deck has been built. And a card like Energy Conversion Lab, that's why the pool I think is so open for Sabine, is there's a lot of ways to use that, right? People think, oh, you're always just going to go for your big closer, right? You're going to go for that Wrecker and ECL. That's really not true. ECL is actually one of the best pieces of interaction that we have in the entire game. And being able to have units like Sabine unit, or now we have this new Karis unit, we have all these things that allow us to not only trade or get a valuable trade up on a target, but also maybe survive or get added value from it, really allow us to race a lot of the decks. So I think the new strategy that we're going to see potentially, right, is going to be how we navigate our flip turn. So one of the really powerful things about Sabine that we haven't talked about yet is her leader ability to tap her and to deal 1 damage, right? 1 damage is big, right? But also it's a free activation, right? It's an action that we get to use to delay and make our opponent have to make a decision. And so as we have these new plot cards, right, that allow us to action cheat a little bit, our flip turn changes immensely, right? Now we can go, I'm going to play my 2-drop of Alpha Marine. Now I'm going to attack, or I'm going to attack with a unit on board, play Battle Alpha Marine from my hand, tap Sabine. Now we've done 3 different actions before we've even flipped, right? And so our opponent is probably down on actions at that point and has to either claim or pass, so we kind of know what's in their hand, and then we can decide how we're going to navigate that flip turn. So there's a lot of power in that, and plot really enables that. And I'm not even sure what the best plot card is yet, right? We have that new ship, right? The ship that gives raid to our leader. That's pretty powerful. So we get to go cross lane with the play. We have a couple upgrades we could play from the row. If we wanted to get more low to the ground, we could play the 3-cost upgrade, the red one, and then maybe some 1-drops.
It's potentially very, very strong. It's something that's there. And it's the type of card that, like, when that line doesn't necessarily line up, you just leave it, leave it down. And it doesn't have to go on the Sabine. I mean, you can be upgrading just about anything with that thing. I think it doesn't even have a non-vehicle restriction. So you can really come out of nowhere with that card. And I mean, you're still consolidating the actions even if you're not necessarily buffing the Sabine. You could even put it on a space unit that has pilot on it.
Or we could play the 4-cost upgrade that's a pseudo Darksaber. Not sure exactly how it's going to play out. And that's not even talking about how or if we're going to leverage aggressive negotiations, right? Because that card really is very powerful on its just baseline level, even just getting a pump for 2 or 3. However, once you start building your deck around having cards in hand, right, plotting a lot or cards that draw, you really can have a really powerful alpha swing towards the middle of the game because it only costs 3 resources to really close out things early. So I think there's going to be a lot of innovation this set on Sabine. And the hardest part, and why I don't know exactly what's going to happen, is, as has been true for Sabine across all the metas, you really need to build your main deck based on what people are trying to do, right? What the other decks are, what fits best. Are we playing more Saboteurs because there's a lot of Sentinel, right? Are we playing Sundari Peacekeeper because we need to race more and we got to get that health gain? What are our ECL targets, right? What kind of main deck removal do we need? That sort of thing.
So I'm just plotting, plotting on 4 and just making a big Sabine that's significantly harder for them to deal with. And then I'm also condensing my actions in a way that's very, very powerful. One card that I've been high on that I've seen come in and out of lists from a previous set was the Adelphi Patrol Fighter. It's a 5 mana, 4/6, I believe, or 4/5. And if you have the initiative, you're essentially a fleet lieutenant in space. So with something like Unveiled Might, you're using all of your resources on the flip turn just simply by flipping. Now you're putting yourself in a much, much, much better position to have initiative come turn 5 or resource 5.
I think Jar Jar is a big win for this deck.
So many cards are coming out in set 6 that are red, that are green, that are rebel, and that allow you to actually beat cards that were problematic beforehand. So like Power of the Dark Side was an annoying card against Kira Data Vault, and now if you're able to like flip on turn 3 with Jar Jar, you just completely shut that off and still get another 2-drop and get to attack for 5. So there's just some really, really good stuff happening.
At Worlds, my Worlds deck was really focused on going wide. My Worlds list it wasn't quite a lot different to what everyone was playing, but I definitely I swapped out a lot of early cards for the X-Wings, just to go wide and be able to go 2/2 on Sabine Flip. And being able to go wide in space, as well as just do 2/2 just won me a whole lot of games, because no one could deal with the board because I was just going absolutely wide. And I think that's going to be the same for Jar Jar as well. Being a plot, you're not losing a card from hand, so you can deploy it. Sabine gets buffed, puts her out of takedown range, puts her out of like Power of the Dark Side range, or any of that sort of like 1-for-1 conditional removal that blue villain can play against you. So being able to do that, and a Yoda's Lightsaber, or a Battlefield Marine, or another 2-drop of some sort, really helps you push that damage early. There was a discussion, can't remember which podcast it was on, but someone was talking about Darksaber not actually being a very good card. I kind of agree with that.
One of your best turns with ECL Sabine was the Darksaber Sabine turn, but sometimes it was too all in. And now you're able to, with Jar Jar, you're able to get a similar damage output without being all in, and actually being able to go wide while at the same time like presenting all these, this burst of damage. So
Darksaber, it's actually understated for its cost. So when you're paying for that, and it can just be removed by like a confiscate or a bamboozle or something, it feels really bad. But I think Darksaber was the best option that we had at the time. Yoda's Lightsaber probably fell out of favor a little bit because of Chirrut, because the Sabine with the Darksaber couldn't punch through a Chirrut. So when we shifted to the Yoda's Lightsaber plus 2-drop, I actually really, really like that. I didn't love going back to the Darksaber, even though it is just a beatdown stick. It is a beatdown stick. So I do like the idea of going to a Jar Jar plus a 2-drop.
I'm not 100% sure how I feel about things like the Jar Jar Binks plot card. A lot of people are very, very high on it. Me personally, I don't quite think it's what people think it is. But I think plot is so strong that I'm definitely willing to be wrong on that one.
There's this sort of outdated mindset of like aggro decks are easy to play. I actually think it's the opposite. I think the aggro decks are the hardest decks to play, because like your choices are more condensed, and because you have like a shorter timeline, you like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. You can map those things out more predictably, but you actually you have to do the right things in those turns. So I think one of the big developments will be what you actually want to do on your turn 1 is okay. You play a unit, like we know you play a 2-drop. Okay. Turn 2, it used to be more like Wing Leader was a really good line. Now I think it's going to be playing another just good unit. Like could be Cassian right away, Red 5, Sundari. So that's fine. But I think turn 3, your flip turn, there's a lot of different avenues you can go. You can continue to do Darksaber and maybe pushing a Mandalorian theme, because there is a new red 2-drop who's a Mandalorian who's a 3/3. And then you could play maybe main deck Disabling Fang Fighters and the full Sundari Peacekeeper, and you have all Mandos and you're more on the Darksaber turn. You could also be on Jar Jar. You have enough 2-drops now. You can actually mulligan for Jar Jar and just play like a lot of 2s and 3s and mulligan for Jar Jar, and then always go Jar Jar flip, play another 2. You can also do that with Yoda's Lightsaber and hit for like 8 damage, which is actually more than Darksaber. and you get 2 units. You can't get Power of the Dark Side, so that's super strong. So I think that sequencing is interesting. But then there's also new 4-drops. So there's like Kazuda. He's a 2/6, which is an interesting stat line, but he has Raid, and he has Power +2 if you have less resources. You have Captain Typho, the Sentinel is a 4/5, and then you've also got an interesting card that's, it's got damage printed on it. Is the 4/5 when you claim the initiative, do 2 damage. That card is really interesting as well. It's a red unit. It's a red underworld unit for 4/5. So I think you can think about how your turn 4, you have so many options on turn 4. It used to be K2, Darksaber, or do like a wing leader on your Sabine. But now you can actually really plan it out a lot more. So I don't know which one's best right now, but I think that's some testing that will happen with the teams, people getting ready for tournaments, that you'll want to do is, how does my turn 4 look, my resource 4, and then how does the next turn look like? What do I open with? Because Rebel Assault used to be really good to open right away, but also Poe ECL could be good. But now it could be aggressive negotiations and not even resourcing and getting that burst damage of like a pump of 4 or 5. So there's a lot of options.
Yeah, one other card that I think is kind of interesting that is aggressive negotiations. It's 3 mana, unit gets +1/+0 for each card in your hand, and you attack with that unit right on the spot. So it's an opportunity for Sabine to have essentially a surprise strike without playing yellow, and that's very powerful. I went back and forth with my teammates quite a bit. They didn't quite see it. And then when I kind of explained, it's like, all right, you untap and then you cast for a cause and attack in the same action. That's really strong, and that's going to win races. That's going to, prevent them from stabilizing. That's going to finish the game. It doesn't have to be 4 or more for you to get full value out of it, but if you have it in your hand and you're closing out the game, just draw your 2 cards, don't resource, and slam a creature into their face, and you might just win the game right on the spot there. So
One way out, which allow you to trade while doing damage to the base and killing a unit, that will be a problematic for Sabine in certain matchups, such as Super Laser Technician or unique unit in the Throne deck.
I'm kind of interested in the new Ahsoka unit. Just for that little bit of action compression, but from feedback that I've received within our testing team of people playing games, Ahsoka might be a little bit too slow for the deck, which is surprising, but it might just come out that turn a little bit too late. She's just not impactful when she hits the board straight away, that's all.
I think Nemec Karis existing gives the other callers a lot of options too, because it used to be, you were giving up Battlefield Marine. Well, now you've got a 3/2, and you've got Sabine, and you've got Green Squadron A-Wing. So you at very least have like 9 red turn 1 plays that are solid.
I haven't been able to test it all, and it's kind of hard because there's so many options. But in yellow right now, there are a lot of new cards that make a big splash, right? I think yellow doesn't have to rely so much on the Rebel synergy, so it always had the access to some different plays, some sneak attack lines, and some other things. And I think we get that new raid ship. It's like raid +4 or something, and hex for 7. That thing's pretty insane, right? You sneak attack that thing, or even just put it down. That deck is also one that's run like Valiant Attack Ship in the past, so you can run the new Kazuda too, and you have access to the blaster and a lot of different, and probably honestly it probably is the better aggressive negotiation Sabine too, so that's something to fool around with. The one problem I've had with the yellow version is you definitely have a more linear game plan, right? You're not interacting on board very often in that deck. Whereas the green's trying to use fleet lieutenants, rebel assaults, ECL to trade up, right, to position your board to an overwhelming state. The yellow is definitely much more like, I'm just going to hit you in the face and then sneak attack, right, for the win here. So it's a little bit harder to maneuver when the opponent knows what's going on.
So blue is actually one, this from being in our Discord, blue is one that I think is actually pretty interesting with Galen, because Galen's a really unique card in that it turns off Sentinels. And I think we all know that Chirrut was a super big problem for Han, as in the Han Blue, and Chirrut was everywhere this past summer. But prior to that, like Lieutenant Chilson was a big problem. So being able to say, yeah, those cards don't have Sentinel is really good. it's like we've had like Spec Force Soldier. Do we put that guy in the main deck to turn off Sentinel? Well, now you're going to say, all right, you play a Sentinel. Well, it's not a Sentinel anymore for the rest of the game. It has no effect. Sure, it's a lot worse just as a 3/5 do nothing. So that card is pretty cool. Also, like blue, you wouldn't have thought of blue, but Cassian's a rebel, and so is Ezra. And just having 2 3/5 rebels, and Ezra too. Like Ezra can pump Spectre units, and use a lot of Spectre units in Sabine, including your leader. So actually going like Ezra and then flipping Sabine, attacking, putting a counter on it right away. An experience counter is really strong. You got Sabine's Masterpiece. A card you don't usually think of in Sabine of like Keenan Jarrus, who can put some restore into your deck. And now you're restoring and you're also burning at the same time. So you're kind of like that magic deck of like, lightning helixing people.
So with Sabine double red, you don't have to worry so much about the rebel tag. So you can expand your deck building choices with double red. And I don't think it was until this upcoming set, Secrets of Power, that we really got the powerful cards that we needed for double red to potentially be a deck as well. And I actually think I'm more excited for double red Sabine than I am for Sabine ECL, based on the new cards that we've gotten. We've got Bo-Katan in there, which has always been a good double red card, but there hasn't been a good double red deck. But it can draw you cards to feed aggressive negotiations. There's going to be a common theme with this, and it's aggressive negotiations. And I'm going to be playing whatever the best aggressive negotiations deck is this next set. And I really want it to be a Sabine deck. I don't think it's going to be Sabine ECL, but Sabine Red is looking really good for it. So as I said, you got Bo-Katan that can draw you cards, feeds aggressive negotiations. You got a secondary battlefield marine in the Warrior of Clan Ordo, which is the 2-cost aggression 3/3, which has 0 drawback with its on attack because you're always going to have a red card to disclose. You got the Valiant Commando, which is like a mini K2SO. You burn that for 1 with Heroic Sacrifice. You replace your card, plus you do 8 damage to base. You've got the good new aggressive unit in Kazuda, where because we're probably going to stop resourcing at 4 resources, as soon as you go into 5 resources, he's going to be live for 6/6. So he's effectively attacking at Poe levels for 4 resources a turn earlier. And then you've got another good card, good burn card in Zeton Moj, which is the 4-cost aggression unit, 4/5. When you take the initiative, deal 2 damage to base. So you've got a lot of good new burn cards or powerful units for double red to be really, really aggressive. It probably doesn't have the late game that Sabine has, but I don't think that matters when you've got all this extra burn damage. Another card I want to try fit in there is, double reds for a cause, Chaos of War. Just to, there's a lot of greedy card draw decks. Especially in the blue, the new Chancellor Palpatine's probably going to be very popular. And that's going to be very greedy on card draw. Anything blue villain is very greedy on card draw. So that is just going to punish control decks. It's probably a little bit more win against control decks, but it just closes out games real easy. Or if you really want to punish them, just put a cheeky planetary bombardment in the sideboard.
In only about 3 months' time, come March, our beloved Sabine is going to rotate and no longer be legal to play in the Premier format. How do we feel about that?
Well, I think it's always good to keep games fresh. I certainly will miss Sabine, but I actually really like shortened timelines on how the game shifts. I actually hope that FFG moves things faster. I think you want to see, one tournament looks like this, and then the next tournament might, but then after a while, it's totally different decks at the top. And we don't see, Sabine, Kira, Han, they've had their time in the sun for sure. So I think it would be really cool to get some new powerful leaders in the mix, see what they have to offer. A lot of people have mentioned like the set 4 pilot leaders being really strong, but I hope that set 7 is actually really strong so that we're not even talking about the pilot leaders, right? I hope that set 7, we see a leader that maybe flips on turn 2. something like that, right? Just these, I think the more of that, the more that they can push the envelope, the better. And Sabine's had a run, and so's Han, and so's Kira, and so's, what am I missing here? I'm missing Han 2, and even the leaders like Yoda and stuff, which are going to stay around. Like, it'll be cool to see how they evolve the set 4, 5, and 6 leaders.
It's a huge sigh of relief for me, to be honest. People who know me well or in our Discord and have talked to me know that every set I'm looking for the next aggro leader to replace her. I've been looking for that for a long time. I test a lot of the new stuff to see if there is somewhere. Right now I'm on Dedra a lot, trying to find if she's a little bit better in some scenarios, figuring out different lines. But it always just comes back to Sabine. I think she's just a little bit too good, right? The unit and the leader side, I think they tweaked it just a little bit too much. And it's not saying like she's the best in the whole game, but from an aggro perspective, she just does everything you're looking to do, right? She always has 1 damage every turn, right? If you want it. She always flips on the turn earlier than most of the meta. Like, there's a lot of things going on for her that are really powerful. So it's hard, right? It's hard they keep printing new aggro leaders with like 4 health. That's the benchmark they like to do. And that's just way worse than 5. Like, it just all like the way they made removal, 4 is just dies to physically everything. At least 5, you can trade into some units. You don't die right away. You don't get open fire. There's a lot of value there. So I'm looking forward to her rotation. Maybe then we can look at Cassian, right? The new Cassian that came out. Maybe then we can look at, I can look at some of the pilot leaders, maybe some other different strategies. So I think it stinks because I do love playing her, but I do think it's been a long time, right? I think people would feel the same way if Boba never got banned, right? Everyone would be like, oh man, I'm ready for that next mid-range leader to help me out here.
So I think rotation is going to be very bittersweet. I'm not looking forward to Sabine rotating, but I will fall on my sword and take that sacrifice if it gets rid of all those other shitty cards. Like, I am looking forward to rotation. I'm looking forward to a lot of the very powerful, especially control cards being rotated out. I think it's very clear that the new sort of blue control cards that we're getting are a little bit more balanced for 2 reasons. They're not getting played at the moment because the block 1 stuff is just way too strong. Why would you play weaker stuff? And 2, I think with FFG's plan to have it more unit-based removal, like units having ability, like removal attached to their ability, is a lot better for the game as well. So for that alone, I'm happy to see rotation and to see leaders like Han 2 rotate out.
There's a bit of pressure to play Sabine. And like I said, I have experimented with other decks, and in the back of my mind, it's always like, do I just switch back to Sabine or not? And usually I end up, somewhere in the middle. But to relieve that pressure and be like, all right, that's not even an option anymore. That's somewhat nice. You know what I mean? It'll force me into some other stuff, but we're just going to look for the next most aggressive deck and try to keep doing the same thing with a different leader. I'm very optimistic about the Eternal formats. Whether it be Trilogy, if that does end up being an Eternal format, the actual Eternal format yet to be named. There's still room to play Sabine, and we'll still be having fun with her for sure.
If all of this doesn't get you excited to bring Sabine out for one final spin in this her last set, I don't know what will. And hey, maybe this video even help you improve your Sabine game. You know what I know will help you improve your Sabine game? Talking to people about it. You can do that online a lot, and I have been a member of the KTOD forums from the get-go. So Justin, give us the pitch.
But I think both of our groups are really hoping to keep building community. We both love SWU, and anyone who hasn't joined, definitely check out our YouTube, which is free content. I imagine you'll have it linked in this video. And then on that YouTube page, you'll see our Discord, which really is a very vibrant Discord. We've got thousands of members, and the community is really welcoming. I think that's one big thing that me and Mike and Maddie and Steve, who are the founding members of the KTOD, really wanted to create, which is we wanted to create a space that was not judgmental, that accepts players who are starting out, that are experts, that are, feeling whatever type of way that you're just feeling like this is a good space to learn and grow. And it's been wonderful. So if you haven't already joined, definitely check it out. And yeah, that's it. I also want to plug you guys a little bit and say, I love the sort of I don't think we don't have a rivalry, but like just the energy of the European SWU community with, the Enigma guys and you guys. There's a lot of good energy in the sectors and regionals that are over there. I'm planning, hopefully they're announcing the dates soon, but I'm planning to travel over for a sector or region. I guess it would be a sector for the next season. But I really want to hang out with you guys and connect. I've traveled for cards a few times for Magic and the original Star Wars game overseas, and they've been amazing times. So I'm looking forward to the SWU version of that. And I'm hoping that you guys can come to the United States events too, and we get to connect.
Yeah, really. Thank you so much, Justin. Our forums are also a really good spot to talk about any deck, really. But of course, if you want to talk Sabine, I'm always there. I want to thank everyone that helped me make this video. I'm so happy to got to speak to all of you guys. But before we wrap things up, where can people find you guys?
Yeah, I just want to plug a couple things. One, KTOD team, right? I'm sure Justin plugged it well. Just want to shout out all my teammates and all the great atmosphere, great community there. We are sponsored by Metal Fab Tokens. Great tokens, use them all the time. Excellent. And then Underwhelming Barrage, that's me and John Tada's show that we run bi-weekly now on YouTube. Lots of fun. I love hearing people give feedback on the show, and the people like listening. So I just want to shout those things out.
Check us out on, we have the Against the Galaxy podcast. We've been a little sporadic with episodes lately, but we're getting back onto a regular schedule coming very soon. All the boys are back together. We all got together for Philly. We had a really good time. Definitely want to talk about that. Check us out, Discord, Instagram, all that stuff. Just Against the Galaxy. Look us up. Reach out. We're always willing to talk to people. We like being part of this community. I love being part of this community. The fact that people come up and say hello to me, it's really something special, and I'm definitely appreciative, especially of your time here now, and everybody who does that to me, and everybody who shows the love when I see them.
So we are the baddest podcast, baddest competitive team, baddest gaming, because we are branching out into other games as well. We are an Australian-based content creator / competitive team. We formed because there was no content coming out of Australia. So we figured that we'd throw our hat in the ring. And we seem to be going strong, growing on a daily basis. We're getting more consistent. We've just launched a Patreon. We love doing it. We love the game. And we hope that's reflected in the content that we produce as well. So if you want to go give us a like, subscribe, we are at, just type in BDST Gaming or look for the Baddest Batch. We still come up under that name in the search function. Give us a like and follow, and you will be able to get involved with our shenanigans.
I want to thank all of my mates in the NO to help me to bring it home and to help me to build my deck. I know I'm not because we have a lot of responsibilities and Star Wars is just an hobby and not a professional work. They are very helpful and we have a good group who can support us. I would like to say hello to all my friends in Angoulême who will see I think the video and who will say that my accent was very good and and I did my best for speaking English. Was not I am a good player with Sabine, but if I was good as Sabine as I speak English, that would be very nice for me.
Well, that's it for this time. If you want to continue this conversation, feel free to do so in the YouTube comments. That would greatly help the algorithm. Hardware and software to make these videos do cost money, and it's all coming out of our own pockets. So if you want to help us a little bit, you can just do us a solid and subscribe so that we can get over that 1,000 subscription bump and actually start getting some little bit of money back from YouTube. Also, we do have a Patreon, even though it's nothing there really, but if you feel like supporting us, we'd be very grateful. Also, don't forget to check out all of the people that participated in the video. Links in the description. With that, I'll sign off. May the force be with you.
Ah, this cat, man. She's up there and I watch her and she's like by the A-wing and all I can see is her knocking it down. And that is one unit I do not want to rebuild because it was a pain in the ass.